Hey guys, Mustached Tom here to review the movie Omni. Now, I have not actually seen any trailers for this, but I have come across it, and decided to give it the good old check out, and now I will be reviewing it as objectively as possible. So, when the movie did initially start, it started with this young girl, sort of narrating about how she would pick up these little thing of pills. And I thought that the acting was, well, child actor, not one of the good ones, or not not told what to do in a great way. So the opening narration is a little bit hard to buy into. And sure enough, the premise of this movie is definitely bizarre. In fact, the movie I immediately would compare this to is Everything Everywhere All at Once. That, of course, dealing with multiverse and multi-decisions, a very similar premise in this. In that, we have this young woman, or slightly older woman actually, who is in the doctor's office after that little intro, and she's in the hospital currently, and we learn from the doctor that she has a black hole in her stomach, a small one. And so, we follow this woman after she gets out. Her name is Zoya. So Zoya is a published author. She has done research on this, on physics and such of that ilk. And we learn relatively early on is that she has a week to perform whatever she can before a loop occurs. And the beginning of the loop is her waking up on that bed. And, of course, the end of the loop can end in a various number of ways, which is primarily the movie, essentially. And seeing how that progresses from her publishing a book to resting on the beach and visiting this, I believe it's her old mom's caretaker's home, in which she avoids having that individual that she's talking to. I don't think it's her mom. It could be. I don't know. I don't think it is, but maybe it is. Anyway, she tells her to avoid sitting in a location where bird shit falls down on it. And so we see the loop of that where she warns, and then later on how when she doesn't, and seeing the slight variations until it kind of implies back to like what that character would be normally saying in the said loop. And when it comes to her family, we learn that she has a husband, her own daughter, who's also an adult, so she's probably, decently aged. And the end of the loop, at least very typically, was on her 55th birthday, I believe it is. And the note that she knows that she's out of time is that she begins to bleed through the nose, and that is the indication to take a pill, and then that will cause the reset. So, we learn some other facts along the way, like how this rhino will die, this rare rhino, and so on and so forth. And seeing, again, within this reset of time, not warning the individual lady about the bird poop. However, during one of their obfuscations, she bumps into this other young woman named Paula, who works in a lab, studying time as she suggests. So, the two, this pumps up Zoya to the belief that with Paula's assistance that she will be able to figure out a proper solution. However, she doesn't have enough time to fully convince her, because the first time round, it's full, first introductions, making sure you get that info, and then being like, oh yeah, the second time around, oh, we're in a time loop, here's proof. This movie definitely takes care of that within the context of this movie. About how do you prove that you were in a time loop? Well, account for the things that people are going to do, probably take however many attempts, and the movie obviously utilizes montage to do this quite a bit here, whether that be really quick cuts or really interesting little re-snippets of a thing, and interluding that with said montage. So now that Paula is convinced, unlike, I don't know if it would have even been the second attempt with her meeting Paula. It could have been Paula asked, for example, the first time around, how many fingers am I holding up? And then we see the end result first, almost, to a degree, where she, does, a bunch of different finger variations. So she must have done it, the first time, failed, done it, another time, got past the first one, failed, got past the second one, failed, got past the third one, and so on and so forth, until it was okay, got it. I've run all my conceivable test Paula has, so now she will be on our side, understanding that this is indeed a time loop confirmed. So, they begin to time travel, travel to figure out what is this pill, what is this essence of this thing that is causing said time loop, apparently. And Paula suggests that she has someone that can help. Meanwhile, while she's waiting on that, Zoya meets with this older gentleman, her professor, I believe, Dulsberg, and lambasts her for essentially how she went about, feeling entitled to various things. And we see that Paula was willing to steal in order to get a little bit of extra intel. But they bring in another little thing that brings outside of this universe, this microscopic man, as it were. He's so small that you can't see him with the human eye anymore. And thus, with his help, Paula sees the data come up from what the pill is when they're scanning it, whatever that guy's doing to it to scan it. And she goes, whoa, this is a complicated thing that is changing consistently. So, and one thing I do appreciate about this is that it's never answered, fully, what it is, to a degree. So there is this bit of what, there is an answer to why she received the pills. It turns out she gave them those, I guess it's a spoiler alert, but I'll, all she knows now is that she picked them up when she was 12, and that they had her name on them. So, of course, they begin their test, and with that comes another montage, and we need more resets. And, you know, with time after time after time, and this is when they're like montage looping faster now to really show like that she's going through the motions of like, here we go again, and here we go again, and here we go again. So it really plays on this idea of like how complex is this system, how complex is, you know, well, time travel in that sense, when you're thinking more abstractly. But I do appreciate what this movie begins to do for themes that are outside of the obvious time travel. That being the significance of one's life. And that is really the core of this movie. There are definitely a number of scenes in this movie that really allude to Zoya's character questioning, you know, what blueprint did I leave behind? What did I accomplish? What, you know, what happens when I am gone after this little loop? You know, these are all questions that, you know, some people, you know, religious, you know, I think this touches upon that whole sort of thing. You know, if you're not religious, then, you know, there's this sort of almost horror of not knowing what happens. If there truly is nothing, that is almost a horror. Like, this movie, for being as dramatic as it is, I think its ending is surprisingly horrific, on its note. And it's genred as a comedy. Now, the comedy is very, I would argue, is very minor. I would argue that that part is a little bit like, you know, I don't really see it as much, but the drama, boy, is that present in this movie, and for that alone, I would still recommend seeing it, regardless. So, you know, with the amount of resets, we see how much the mom is lamenting how much time, you know, with these amount of resets, that she's not revisiting her own daughter and her own family, and, you know, she's abandoning them to do this research. So it also becomes a question about, like, you know, if you know, work versus family, essentially, right? When you really break it down to its core essence. You know, if you're on the brink of, like, this massive discovery, I mean, what typical risk is that associated with it? How much do you pull away from family? These are definitely questions people, I'm sure, within the world of science may even struggle with a lot more than, you know. But the dynamic of not feeling special enough, I do feel like that does impact a lot more people. Like a larger cluster of people are wondering, even myself included. I definitely am constantly thinking about, like, am I doing enough? I mean, I'm a small YouTuber. What blueprint am I leaving behind? You know, that's something I do think about quite a bit. I wish to leave something behind, you know, but, At any rate, you know, we learn about Paula's backstory, about how her parents wouldn't notice her as well during this, like, car incident. And we learn about Zoya's backstory, about how she lost her dad before getting the pills. So she had them at a young age, and that she could reset at a young age. But there is, like, a frame of time that she cannot go back before. Like, the loop clearly has a range, research. Maybe it's consistently a week. I'm not sure if that's the hard rule. It seems to be the hard rule now, is that she only has that week, these 7 days, up to her 55th birthday to figure out what to do, essentially. So, she goes to, she gets intel about one of her partner's work or whatever. And she goes to this party to try to get that intel about this guy named Mark. And he's not around anymore. He left behind his research, or rather her research, as she finds out. It's her own research. And she comforts the son about, and how he was, again, and it really alludes to this generation about how much he did the research, and how much, clear distance there was between him and his son. So they're definitely bleeding these parallels between these characters as well. And during this later segment where she's near this tree, she lets the nosebleed take hold for a bit longer. And then we see what, again, is presented as something rather horrific. The black hole that has been ominously presented, it begins to physically manifest outside of her chest. And then she takes the pill. She gets pulled back, obviously. And she hugs her daughter when she returns back. And then she kind of begins to reassess and hang with her family again. And it becomes quite the, these, again, bringing up these questions about, what would you change with your life? What would you rather do or have done? What do you, the regrets of, what could have been is definitely, again, reiterated, especially in this scene with the husband and wife. And she only, her only claim is that she wished she had more days. And so, she does some other things. She's trying to set her emotional state, seeing that rhino that was talked about way earlier, seeing it actually in person. And then finally going back to Paula, after quite a, extensive time, a bit away. And then Soya comes to her actual decision, is to give Paula the pills. And then we begin to cut to all the different people that she's been interacting with, like this taxi driver, and the dad, and the son, and all of these people that we've met along the way. And among the last scene, it's the 55th birthday, obviously, and she learns that she will be a grandparent. And this is one of the last things she will learn. Like, damn, how fucked up is that? Like, jeez. Talk about, this sudden emotional, wow, holy cow. And, she begins to freak out. And then it happens, and it's, again, this rather, it's this rather horrific, sudden, she just folds in on herself, and it's just oh, that's it, I guess, very, symbolic of a death. And then we finally get the reveal that she was the one who gave the pills to herself initially. So it's at some time loop shenaniganry, she was able to extend past that 7-week backward time travel and then give the pills to herself to figure something out, giving it to Paula. And that's the thing, we never learn what that will accomplish. That's the end of the movie. And I think that's actually a very fitting end to this type of dramatic type of movie. It's extremely bittersweet, and again, dare I say, to a degree, horrific. At least, that imagery of just someone just gone, you know. So yeah, definitely one of the more emotional movies that I have come across. Surprisingly so. I'm gonna give this movie a 9 out of 10. I would push for a 10 out of 10. I think this movie is masterful. I definitely agree with the little quotes up there. So yeah, high recommendation, if you couldn't tell, all throughout. So that's my review of Omni. And if you ended up enjoying that, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second to my PayPal, where you can help support me and my channel directly. And third to my Discord server, where you can join collab, shield, let cool stuff for free. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.